Imagine waking up every morning not just going through the motions, but setting the tone for the day ahead with a mindset that drives success, resilience, and purpose. Words have power. The words we tell ourselves shape our reality. So today, let's explore 5 key messages you should tell yourself every day. Messages that have the power to shift your mindset, elevate your confidence, and drive you toward a life of fulfillment. Too often we chase validation, likes on social media, approval from others, promotions at work, as if they define our worth. We tell ourselves that once we get the recognition, once we prove ourselves, once we achieve a certain level of success, then we will be enough. But what if I told you that you were already enough? Not because of what you achieve, not because of how many people admire you, but simply because you exist. There's a story of a young woman named Sarah, an artist who constantly compared her work to others. She would scroll through social media, seeing other artists with thousands of followers and think, why would anyone care about my work when theirs is so much better? She believed she wasn't talented enough, that she wasn't good enough. One day, she met a blind man at an art exhibit. He couldn't see her paintings, but he felt them. He ran his fingers over the textures, absorbing the emotion in the strokes. He turned to her and said, I can feel your passion in these. I can feel you in these. That day, Sarah realized something powerful. Worth isn't external, it's internal. Her work mattered not because of how many people praised it, but because it was an extension of herself. How many of us are like Sarah, constantly looking outward for a sense of worth? We measure ourselves against impossible standards. We think that if we aren't as successful, as beautiful, as wealthy, or as admired as someone else, we are somehow lacking. But the truth is, no degree, job title, or external praise will make you worthy. You already are. You are not defined by your accolades, your income, or how many people approve of you. You are enough simply because you are here, because you are you. And the sooner you believe that, the sooner you free yourself from the endless chase for validation. Imagine waking up every day knowing that nothing outside of you determines your value. Imagine stepping into your day with the confidence that you don't need to prove anything to anyone. How much lighter would you feel? How much more would you dare to create, to try, to dream if you weren't afraid of whether or not you measured up? Some of the most extraordinary people in history weren't celebrated in their lifetime. Vincent van Gogh only sold 1 painting while he was alive. His worth wasn't in the sales, but in the art he created. If he had based his sense of value on how many people approved of his work, we wouldn't have the masterpieces that inspire us today. Think about a child. A newborn baby doesn't have to earn love. No one looks at a baby and says, you're only valuable if you achieve something. The baby is loved simply for existing. But somewhere along the way, we start believing that we have to do something to be enough, that we have to achieve, succeed, impress. But the truth is, you are still that child. You are still worthy of love, of belonging, of acceptance, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. The problem is that we live in a world that profits from our self-doubt. Companies sell us products by convincing us that we're not good enough as we are. Social media thrives on comparison, making us feel like we are always one step behind. We see curated versions of people's lives and assume that we're failing in comparison. But we are comparing our behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. We don't see their struggles, their insecurities, their fears. We only see the polished version, and then we convince ourselves that we are less than. But what if we stopped? What if, instead of measuring ourselves against others, we simply decided to embrace who we are? What if we started every day telling ourselves, I am enough? Not because of what we've done, not because of what we own, not because of what people think of us, but simply because we are. Telling yourself, this isn't about arrogance. It's not about refusing to grow or improve. It's about knowing that your value isn't conditional. It doesn't depend on whether you get the promotion, whether you lose the weight, whether you are liked or admired. Your value is already there. And when you believe that, something amazing happens. You stop chasing approval and you start living authentically. You start making choices based on what truly matters to you, not on what will impress others. You start showing up fully without the fear of whether or not you're. And when you show up in that way, you give others permission to do the same. You become the person who reminds your friends, your family, your colleagues that they too are enough. You create a ripple effect, changing not just your own life, but the lives of those around you. Because when people feel like they are enough, they stop holding back. They stop playing small. They stop living in fear. And that is where real change happens. So today, as you step into the world, take a moment to remind yourself, I am enough. Say it out loud, write it down, put it on a sticky note where you'll see it every day. Because when you believe it, truly believe it, everything changes. The way you walk, the way you talk, the way you carry yourself. You move through life differently, not seeking approval, not afraid of failure, not comparing yourself to others, but standing fully in who you are. You are enough. Not because of what you do, not because of what you have, not because of what others think of you, but because you are you, and that will always be enough. Have you ever noticed that the most resilient, the most unstoppable people are the ones who have endured the most? The ones who have been knocked down, counted out, and told they wouldn't make it, yet somehow they do. They rise, they grow, they become something greater than they ever imagined. That's not a coincidence. That's not luck. That's the power of adversity. Adversity is life's way of asking, how bad do you want it? It's a question disguised as failure, disappointment, rejection. It comes in the form of closed doors, broken dreams, and moments of absolute despair. It is relentless. It will push you, test you, and demand that you dig deeper than you ever thought possible. But the people who answer that question with courage, who lean into the discomfort, who refuse to give up, they are the ones who achieve greatness. Think about it. Every breakthrough, every revolution, every moment of human progress was born from struggle, from someone who refused to accept that where they were was where they had to stay. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. 1,000. Can you imagine failing that many times? Can you imagine putting in that kind of effort, experiencing that level of rejection, and still waking up every day with the conviction to try again? What if he had stopped at 999? What if he had let frustration, exhaustion, and self-doubt win? We'd be sitting in darkness. But that's just it, isn't it? The darkness is a necessary part of the process because it's in the darkness that we learn to find our own light. Most of us are taught to avoid pain. We're conditioned to seek comfort, to look for the easy way out, to protect ourselves from failure. But comfort never built anything extraordinary. It's the struggle that shapes us. The pain, the setbacks, the moments where everything feels impossible, those are the very things that teach us what we're truly capable of. Think back to a time when you faced something that felt insurmountable. Maybe it was a failure at work, the loss of something you cared about, or a dream that seemed to slip through your fingers. In that moment, you probably felt like giving up, like the universe had stacked the odds against you, like no matter how hard you tried, things just wouldn't work out. And yet, here you are, stronger, wiser, standing on the other side of it. The truth is, struggle doesn't just build character, it reveals it. Every challenge, every hardship, every failure, it all serves a purpose. It's not happening to you, it's happening for you. It's shaping you into the person you need to become to achieve the things you were meant to achieve. Think of the most impactful leaders, the most influential figures in history. Were their paths easy? Was success handed to them? No. They endured hardship. They were ridiculed. They were told no more times than they could count. But they didn't let that define them. They let it refine them. Oprah Winfrey was told she wasn't fit for television. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. Imagine if they had accepted those verdicts. Imagine if they had believed the world's definition of their worth instead of writing their own. The world would be missing out on some of the greatest minds, talents, and leaders. And that's the thing. The moment you embrace your challenges as your teachers, you take back your power. You stop seeing obstacles as roadblocks and start seeing them as stepping stones. Every failure carries a lesson. Every setback has something to offer. The question is, are you willing to learn? Are you willing to keep going even when it feels impossible? Are you willing to trust that what's on the other side of your struggle is worth the fight? Because it is. It's easy to admire the success stories when they're fully formed, when the books are written, the trophies are won, the achievements are celebrated. But what we don't see are the countless hours of struggle, the sleepless nights, the doubt, the fear, the failures. Every great success is built on a foundation of hardship. So the next time you face a challenge, the next time you hear that voice in your head telling you to quit, to walk away, to settle for something less than what you want, pause, recognize that voice for what it is, fear. And fear is a liar. It will tell you that you can when you absolutely can. It will tell you that you're not enough when you already are. Instead, remind yourself, this is teaching me something. This is making me stronger. This is preparing me for what's next. Because if you can find the lesson, if you can embrace the struggle, if you can push through when every fiber of your being is telling you to stop, you will come out the other side unshakable. You will become the kind of person who doesn't just survive adversity, but thrives because of it. And that is where true greatness begins. There is a truth about life that often eludes us, not because it is hidden, but because we are so conditioned to react instinctively that we forget our greatest power, the power to choose our response. We live in a world where events unfold beyond our control, where circumstances shift like the tides, unpredictable and unrelenting. And yet, in the midst of all that uncertainty, there exists one undeniable truth. We control how we respond. Imagine standing at the crossroads of adversity and opportunity. One path is well worn, the instinctual reaction to frustration, fear, or disappointment. The other is less traveled, demanding patience, perspective, and courage. The difference between these two paths is not circumstance, it is choice. There's an ancient story about a farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbor immediately lamented his bad luck, but the farmer simply said, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned, bringing 3 wild horses with it. The neighbor rejoiced, calling it a stroke of fortune. Again, the farmer said, "Maybe." Days later, the farmer's son broke his leg while trying to tame one of the wild horses. The neighbor shook his head in pity. Once more, the farmer said, "Maybe." A week later, soldiers arrived, recruiting young men for war, but the farmer's son was spared due to his injury. The neighbor now saw the broken leg as a blessing. The farmer, he still said maybe. Life is neither good nor bad. It just is. It's how we respond that gives meaning to our experiences. When hardship arrives, when things don't go according to plan, our first impulse is often frustration, anger, or despair. We demand to know why. We search for blame. But what if, instead, we embrace the possibility that every experience carries within it the seed of something greater? Every challenge, every setback, every failure is an invitation to grow, to learn, to see the world through a different lens. It is in those moments when life doesn't go the way we want that we discover who we really are. Think of the moments in your life when you felt the weight of failure pressing down on you. Maybe it was the job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that slipped through your fingers. In the moment, it felt like loss. But looking back, was it the catalyst for something else, something unexpected, something even better? The problem is we don't see the whole picture while we're in it. We only see the immediate pain, the immediate frustration. But if we take a step back, if we allow ourselves to trust the process, we realize that every moment of adversity carries within it a lesson, an opportunity, or a redirection towards something greater. This isn't about passive acceptance. It's about conscious choice. When something doesn't go our way, we can choose to be bitter or we can choose to be better. We can choose to see failure as the end or we can choose to see it as the beginning of something new. We can choose to let circumstances define us or we can choose to define ourselves by how we respond. Think about the people you admire most in life. The ones who inspire you, the ones who seem to navigate challenges with grace, who turn obstacles into stepping stones. What sets them apart is not their circumstances, it's their mindset. They have mastered the ability to pause, to breathe, to respond rather than react. The world is filled with noise, opinions, expectations, judgments. People will tell you what's good, what's bad, what's possible, what's impossible. But the truth is none of that matters. The only thing that matters is how you choose to respond. When someone criticizes you, do you let it define you or do you let it refine you? When doors close, do you see them as barriers or as signs pointing you toward a new path? When life throws the unexpected at you, do you resist or do you adapt? Our emotions are real. Frustration, anger, sadness, they are all part of the human experience. But emotions are not commands. Just because we feel them does not mean we have to be controlled by them. We have the ability to pause, to reflect, and to choose how we move forward. And in that choice lies our greatest power. The next time life doesn't go the way you planned, take a breath. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this teaching me? Instead of reacting with frustration, respond with curiosity. Instead of resisting change, embrace it. Because the truth is, we can't control the waves, but we can learn to surf. We can't control the wind, but we can adjust our sails. We can't control what happens to us, but we can always control how we respond. And that changes everything. Most people don't realize just how much they're capable of. Not because they aren't talented, not because they lack intelligence, not because they don't have the right connections or resources, but because they have been conditioned to believe that they can't. And so they never try, they never push, they never take the first step toward something that could change everything. Fear is a powerful force. It disguises itself as practicality. It whispers to us in voices that sound like our own, telling us that it's too risky, that it's not the right time, that we're not ready. It convinces us that we need more experience, more skills, more support before we even dare to begin. And in doing so, it locks us in place. It keeps us from even trying. But what if we're wrong? What if the biggest obstacle we have to overcome is not the world around us, but the limits we place on ourselves? What if the barrier isn't real, but simply a reflection of what we believe to be true? In 1954, Roger Bannister shattered a belief that had stood for decades. Scientists, doctors, and experts had analyzed the human body and concluded that it was physically impossible to run a mile in under 4 minutes. They believed that if anyone attempted it, their heart would give out. It was a fact, written in books and reinforced by data. And because everyone believed it, no one even got close to breaking it. But Bannister didn't see it that way. He saw a possibility where others saw a wall. He trained, he prepared, and on that historic day, he ran the mile in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. A single second may not seem like much, but it was a second that changed everything. Because the moment he proved it was possible, the floodgates opened. Within a year, multiple runners broke the same record. What had once been considered impossible was now just another challenge to overcome. What changed? It wasn't the athletes, it wasn't their bodies, it was their belief. The moment the world saw proof that the 4-minute mile wasn't a death sentence, it became something to strive for rather than something to fear. That is the power of belief. That is the power of changing the way we see our own potential. Now think about your own life. What have you convinced yourself is impossible? Maybe it's financial freedom. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's leaving a toxic relationship or standing up for what you truly believe in. Maybe you've told yourself that you're not good enough, not smart enough, not strong enough to take that first step. But if you could see yourself from the outside, if you could witness your own potential the way others can, you would realize that you are capable of so much more than you think. We grow up in a world that teaches us to conform, to stay in line, to follow the safe path. We're told that success is for a select few, that greatness is reserved for the special, the lucky, the ones who were born into the right circumstances. But that is a lie. Every single person who has ever done something extraordinary started out just like you. They had fears, they had doubts, they faced obstacles. The only difference? They refused to let their limitations define them. They chose to believe that they were capable, and so they were. When you tell yourself you're not capable, your brain listens. It searches for evidence to confirm that belief. It reminds you of every failure, every mistake, every time you tried and didn't succeed. But when you change the narrative, when you start telling yourself that you are capable, your brain listens to that too. It starts looking for opportunities instead of roadblocks. It begins to see challenges as stepping stones rather than barriers. It shifts from fear to possibility. And that changes everything. The problem is that most people wait. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait for fear to disappear. They wait for a sign that it's time. But fear never fully disappears. There is no perfect moment. There is no neon sign telling you go now. The people who accomplish great things aren't the ones who had no fear. They are the ones who acted despite it. They are the ones who felt the doubt, acknowledged it, and took a step forward anyway. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward in the presence of it. It's understanding that fear is just part of the process. It's recognizing that the only way to prove to yourself that you are capable is to take action. No amount of thinking, planning, or hoping will change your belief in yourself. Only action can do that. Only by stepping into the unknown, only by pushing past the mental barriers, do you prove to yourself what you are truly capable of. Say it to yourself daily, I am capable. Say it when you wake up. Say it before you walk into that meeting. Say it when fear tries to creep in and convince you otherwise. And most importantly, act like you believe it. Because you are more powerful than you realize. You have more potential than you've ever dared to imagine. And the moment you decide to believe it, the world opens up in ways you never thought possible. There is a quiet tragedy in how we live our lives. We go through the motions assuming that we have time. We tell ourselves we'll do it later. We'll start the business next year. We'll repair the broken relationship when we're less busy. We'll take the trip when we have more money. But what if later never comes? What if the only time we have is today? A hospice nurse once spent time with people in their final days, asking them about their greatest regrets. What they shared wasn't about missed promotions, lost investments, or a failure to accumulate more wealth. It was about time. Time they had wasted. A time they didn't spend with the people who mattered most. Time they didn't use to pursue what truly lit their soul on fire. They weren't afraid of dying. They were afraid of never having really lived. We all make the mistake of believing we are immortal in a way, that tomorrow is promised, that next week is a given, that next year is a certainty. But all we have ever had is today, right now, this moment. And yet we squander it. We scroll mindlessly through our phones, numbing ourselves with distractions. We fill our schedules with obligations that drain us, meetings that mean nothing, and responsibilities we never wanted in the first place. We convince ourselves that this is just how life is, that one day it will change, that one day we'll finally feel alive. But how long have we been telling ourselves that story? How many times have we said, I'll do it later? What if instead we said, I will make today count? That means waking up with purpose, not just letting the day happen to you, but deciding how you want to show up. It means looking at the people in your life, really looking at them and choosing to be present. It means making the phone call you've been avoiding, telling someone you love them even when it feels uncomfortable, and forgiving not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Making today count means taking the risk. Not waiting until you feel ready, because you never truly will, but stepping forward anyway. It means writing the book, recording the song, launching the business, or making the leap. It means recognizing that fear will always be there, whispering doubts in your ear, but choosing to act despite it. It means not measuring your days and tasks completed or items checked off a list, but in the depth of your experiences, in the laughter shared, in the connections made, in the moments of awe that took your breath away. It means looking at the people who matter most and making sure they know it, not assuming they understand, not believing you'll have another chance, but telling them now, hugging them now, showing up now. Because one day our time will run out. And when that day comes, the only question that will matter is this: did I make today count? Let's stop waiting for a perfect moment that may never arrive. Let's stop believing we have forever. Let's stop postponing joy, adventure, and connection. The future isn't guaranteed. But today is in our hands. So make it count. These 5 messages: I am enough. My challenges are my greatest teachers. I control how I respond. I am capable of more than I think. I will make today count. If you make these a habit, you'll begin to see a shift in how you show up in the world. Your thoughts shape your actions shape your life, and your life is too valuable to be lived on autopilot. So what will you tell yourself today?